So there's a lot of things that we can't control, but one of the things that we can is testing your plan, running the numbers, as we say, to make sure that as an advisor, I'm listening to what's most important to you. So when I evaluate your plan, I can make sure that I'm building in enough buffer so you can continue to do the things you like doing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Collar Wealth Podcast. And we call it that because this is really a show about real finance for real people. And we often get asked, what kind of clients do you work with there at Stonehouse? And the term that I always like to use is blue collar wealth. You see, most of our clients, they have anywhere from $500,000 to many millions of dollars saved up in their retirement, but they don't necessarily care about buying a giant yacht somewhere and sailing it to the south of France. Most of our clients, they ask us, how do I squeeze more juice out of my retirement? And how do I live a long, happy, healthy life? Well, my name is Bob Brown. I'm a certified financial planner here and a founding partner at Stonehouse Retirement Income Planners. And I've had the privilege of helping many families plan and live their lives for over 20-some years now. I'm part of a growing team here at Stonehouse, and we've seen our clients go through a lot of different things in their lives. And now, thanks to the beauty of the podcast, we can share some of those stories with you and maybe even some shortcuts to hopefully get you on the right track or stay on the right track with your own finances. Now, in this episode, I'm excited about this. We're going to talk about the real reason that we use the F word in our retirement planning office. You may very well be feeling anxious or concerned about your chances of having a successful retirement. And maybe you can't even put your finger on why or what that is that's causing you to have that worry. Well, I can tell you with confidence that in my 20 plus years of experience, there's one single thing you can have that dramatically increases your chances of success. And if you don't have it, well, that nervous feeling may never go away. In our office, we jokingly call it the F word. You're not alone in that feeling. Many people feel this way, but they never just quite figure out what is missing or what that F word is. So let me spare you the mystery and just get right to it. We call it flexibility. And by the end of this podcast, I hope that we're able to get you to a better place where you can understand what we mean by flexibility and how vital it can be to you. And most certainly, how you can build more of that flexibility into your retirement. So with me today to help me discuss the F word with you, I brought in Kirk Lunger. And Kirk is a senior advisor here at Stonehouse, and he has experience in working with people just like you who are planning their retirement and their future and trying to get more F in retirement. All right, so Kirk, hey, this is, that was kind of an interesting way to put it, but, more F in retirement, right?
Sure.
It's a funny play on words, obviously. We are talking about flexibility, not what most people think about when they hear the F word, but flexibility is king. Since you and I have started working together, I know that I've always preached that. I think someone preached that to me when I first started in the business. And, for 20 plus years as a company, we've been working with people and it has proven to be the difference maker for some people, right? So, gosh, you work with a lot of folks and they come into you. Some folks have a lot more than they need to live on. They have that surplus and that extra comfort. And some folks are really trying to make every single thing count because they really want to retire. But where do you stand on flexibility? Where do we start this conversation?
Sure. So, when we think about flexibility in our office, the planning process is always going to start when someone comes in and looks to discuss what their current goals, objectives, and priorities are. In our business, that majority of the time revolves around retirement planning, whether that's someone looking to retire in the short term or looking 5 to 7 years out saying, am I on the right path to meet my goals and objectives in retirement? And where flexibility comes in is we preferably don't want to see a plan that is so tight that you now have to proverbially tighten your belt to a level that says, well, this will work if you squeeze off 20 to 30% less spending than what you're currently doing.
Yeah, tightening my belt is harder and harder these days. Oh, you meant figuratively.
Yes, more figuratively than literally.
Right.
But, in this context here, longer term wise, we've found statistically it's not successful for most clients to be able to sustain that level of reduced spending from what they were used to over their working career.
Right.
So if we can build in a plan where they have enough flexibility in it that unforeseen costs, currently we're in an environment where we haven't seen in several decades this level of price increases in some time.
Sure.
And that level of uncertainty can basically test some plans. Clients whose plans were tighter and had less flexibility are now then dealing with, well, can I raise my monthly withdrawal to allow me to account for higher fuel prices, rising food costs? And then the other things that we see oftentimes with clients, helping aging parents, children,
Absolutely.
Rising medical costs, or in this case, unforeseen medical costs as we get older. And the big one in the last 6 to 8 months is, individuals prioritizing early retirement, whether it's a change in their current role or, a time for something new. But, that flexibility in your plan is something we need to build, because over time, change is the one constant. Your priorities today when we sit down with you to discuss what's most important is inevitably going to look different 5, 10, and 15 years from now. So there's a lot of things that we can't control, but one of the things that we can is testing your plan, running the numbers, as we say, to make sure that as an advisor, I'm listening to what's most important to you. So when I evaluate your plan, I can make sure that I'm building in enough buffer so you can continue to do the things you like doing. Ultimately, it's your choice. It's your money. You control when and how you'd like to spend it. But most of our clients don't usually want to hear from us, so I have to go back to work now 10 years later.
Yeah.
We're trying to prevent that.
Yeah.
And that's what the flexibility really comes in, is those unknowns. Or
Would you say it's like I kind of look at it as a bend, don't break kind of a thing. Like if you get, if we have a bad, let's say bad market over a month or two, right? And, sometimes clients don't even call or get concerned about that. And it always depends on how much, of a downswing we get. But at some point, if we're not reaching out to them ahead, they're reaching out to us and they're seeing something that's jarring them or whatever. The question is that we usually are trying to help them answer is this something where I need to bend? Meaning, do I need to be doing something different? And so on the short-term blips, almost inevitably our answer is no. It's steady as she goes. We expect that, right? But then you get into 3 months of negative returns or a substantial downswing, and then tensions start to rise. It's the human characteristic. We all have it. I think it's just that we're not callous to it, but we're so used to it. Like, I'm 20 some years in the business. I've had a number of these events, and some have been huge and some have been, they always feel like when you're in the middle of them, like they're the biggest thing in your lifetime. And then it relaxes. And then there's another one sometime down the road. But at some point as an advisor, you might have to say, it is time to bend. And what does that mean and this is where the flexibility comes in. So where are places that people typically have some flexibility to spend a little bit less, tighten up the belt, things like that?
Sure.
You mentioned some already.
Yeah, so some of those things are going to come into someone's plan depending upon when they retire and how old they are. They'll have additional income in retirement from Social Security eligibility. Many of our clients retire before Social Security eligibility, so that flexibility in their plan is key, because if they're not pursuing part-time work or a spouse that's still working, they're reliant on their nest egg to meet their needs until that next inflection point, right, when they have additional income coming in. The other thing is what we talk about, in our business is, running that Monte Carlo analysis, which is basically a fancy word for scenarios, and looking to stress test your plan to make sure it has the built-in flexibility, because to your point, every market unexpected event feels like it's the first time it's ever happened.
Right.
When historically, it's probably not, but this time is just a little bit different than the past, so it feels like it's the first time. However, as most of our clients enter into our relationships, we're investing for a long period of time. There's going to be many ups and downs. The key is being able to navigate them and having a partner, in this case your advisor, to best assist you to know your needs, your goals, and priorities. And without reviewing that, you don't have the information needed to say, is my plan able to handle those storms that will inevitably come ahead. Now, when you are investing, those tend to be far fewer than the good times where it's calm and full speed ahead. And very few clients call us when we're making money saying, why aren't we making more? Right. It's inevitably when those drawdowns come that the pain starts to set in and goes, boy, I'm getting concerned. So that's where the flexibility in your plan comes in to say, look, we've been here before, we've seen this, here's how we're adjusting, and then here's what your plan looks like. So the main thing with flexibility in our office is your retirement plan isn't just a checkbox that you can say, yep, I did that, on to the next thing. It's a constantly evolving
It's a great
thing.
point.
And it's something that we will continually review because kind of like we talked about at the beginning, your goals and priorities will shift. And it's important, as our advisors know, that we need to be listening to what our clients' needs are. And sometimes that might be, improving in your home or helping out a child who's buying a home or, assisting a family member who's going through an unexpected health event. And it's a high priority for you to do. And that flexibility you have in your plan can clearly accommodate. Now, other times, clients could be in positions where it's not as flexible. And then we have to be the sounding board and be comfortable with that relationship to say, this is not a good idea. Ultimately, it's your choice.
I'm glad you said sounding board instead of bad guy, because sometimes you feel like the bad guy sometimes. But
Sure.
It's just math, right? You're just trying to stay in the lines.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's how and when you want to spend your hard-earned money. And no one will ever know when you're no longer going to need it. But it's our job to be trying to plan for that future that inevitably is hopefully a very long time that allows you to live the life you've continually envisioned and not one that is 10, 15, 20 years later going, oh, I guess I can't do that now because I don't have the financial assets or means to do that.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of our job is to try and help folks balance the here and now with the future. And that's what kind of flexibility means to us.
Yeah. No, that's great. I know that we've had many, in my many years, we've had many great years and return-wise, and you feel great, and you think, great, I just added extra cushion to my client's account, and the next thing you know, they go, hey, we had such a great year, I want to go build a garage or something or buy a boat, and you're like, oh, well, there goes that little extra, but, you're still within your plan, and that's usually what they say, hey, can I afford to go do this thing? Some of those things are for fun, some of those are a necessity, right? So to kind of wrap up, because we try to keep these, you and I can talk forever, try and keep it brief, to leave folks that are watching this with an idea of how do they build that flexibility in their own plan. Would you say, I don't know if this is how you're doing it with folks, would you say like, hey, let's look at your priorities, where you're spending money today, where you expect to, and sort of prioritize those things so that if it does get to one of those, hey, it's time to bend or tighten the belt, they know right where they're going to? Or like, how do you do any sort of planning for that?
Yeah, that's part of that annual review that we would like to look at within what the longer term retirement plan looks like, not just the day-to-day of, I need a few miscellaneous expenses for X, Y, and Z that have came up, but looking at where are we at now with where the markets are in relation to those higher priorities longer term to build in what we call those scenarios and techniques that we build into the plan to say, what if I want to spend an extra $1,000 a month, or I want to take this one-time distribution to cover an RV or a second home or anything really. It doesn't matter if it's a tractor attachment or, a beach vacation house. From our side, we have seen it all in that regard. And at the end of the day, like you said, it's just math. So it's just a matter of saying, is there enough room in your plan to justify that purchase today and not derail your long-term plan?
Right. And so there's a big difference between somebody saying, can I buy versus can I afford to buy, right? Yeah. I can tell you, yes, you can until you're completely out of money and then you no longer can.
Sure.
But unless you know that you're going to die tomorrow, that's probably a bad idea.
Yeah, this is always the perspective of someone, well, how much can I spend in retirement? That's a really loaded question.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, if you have $500,000 and you tell me you want to spend $100,000 a year, okay, it's not going to be very long, but you could do that. Yeah. But is that reasonable for what you're looking to do? That's really our job, and what flexibility is trying to determine, are your goals and objective reasonable for how and when you want to spend this money?
Yep.
So what I like to describe it with clients is I'd rather bet on you than bet on just what the market may do, because your plan is something we can control.
Right.
I can't control a lot of external factors of when stocks are going to go up and down. I wish we could.
Sure.
But if that was the case, I would tell that hypothetical client, spend whatever you want. We're going to make it up for you in return every year. That's just not the way things usually work.
For compliance reasons, we're not saying that we can do that.
Correct.
Right. Yeah, no.
That part probably won't make it in the video.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it probably will. But so in a wrap, I guess because this is the way we do it in-house, right? And you do these all the time. We get people's numbers. We understand their numbers. We get that into our system. And then each year, whenever something changes in their life, whether it's market performance to the upside or downside, or as you mentioned earlier, all these things that happen in just life in general that you can't control, when any sort of change happens, we rerun the numbers.
Yep.
And we say, hey, look, like we're trying to keep you in this range. Something's pushing you out of the range one way or the other. Do we need to adapt, right? That's pretty much how you do it?
Yeah, what I think about it is we need to put the person in the financial plan, because the tool itself is just that, an algorithm that's formulated to say whether you have enough or don't. We need to put the person in that equation, and that's what an advisor does. You could go online and plug your numbers into a calculator and it's going to give you an output, but that doesn't really help you unless you know how to read that output and say, is that within tolerance or not of what I'm looking to do? So our job is to put the person into the financial plan and then make sure, is there an assessment that says it's reasonable enough to do that?
Kirk, I absolutely love that. I think we'll probably wrap up for this one. I've worked alongside you for all these years, and that's probably the first time I've heard you actually phrase it like that, and I think that really struck me. So hopefully for those of you listening to the video, if you find yourself worried about the fine-tuning of your portfolio and building that flexibility, or the F word in your plan, I hope that Kirk gave you some great ideas here in this conversation. And as always, if you want to reach out to us here at Stonehouse, whether it's Kirk or any of our advisors, we have a team of people that do this every single day for people who seem confused or overwhelmed on how to do it on their own. So if you're that person, give us a shout, and we hope you get more effing retirement.